Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. We're talking about Seattle in tonight's video because the Lions-Cowboys game is about to start, and by the time a lot of you guys watch it, it's probably over. Detroit's 7-5. They were the number 1 seed last season, 15-2. They lost in the playoffs, and they're playing tonight's football game in a loaded NFC conference, trying to continue their playoff hopes. And I was thinking about Seattle, and I'm like, it's just crazy that I know Seattle's not leading the NFC West, but Seattle is 9-3. They are 9-3. They have a top 3 offense. They have a top 3 defense by statistics. Maybe the best defense in the NFL. And Sam Darnold is clearly a top 10 quarterback, even with some of these fumbles. You know, you'll have some bad throws every game, whatever. Sam Darnold's clearly a top 10 quarterback, and it's funny in the offseason how many people came out here and said, ooh, Darnold? You want to pay Sam Darnold? You want to get rid of Geno Smith to pay Sam Darnold? And now looking back in hindsight, it's like, whoa, Sam Darnold's contract, it's actually a complete steal. And look at the Vegas Raiders. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to Geno Smith or any of the former Seahawks teams. I remember the first Seahawks video I ever made was in 2022. It was around the middle of November because I think Seattle had just won their 3rd or 4th straight game. And this was the year you guys made it to the playoffs and lost to San Francisco on the road. But if I'm not mistaken, Seattle was winning that game at halftime. So the Seahawks get to like 6-2, 6-3 after a win against, I want to say, the Arizona Cardinals. And I just started making NFL content. I made like 2 Vikings videos and a Jets video. And my buddy wanted to go see Anthony Richardson for the Florida Gators. We lived in Fort Myers, Florida. And I wanted to see Spencer Rattler play for the Gamecocks. But I had a little bit of success making NFL videos, and I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe if this Seahawks video hits 10K, then I'll definitely go on this trip to Gainesville on Saturday. That Seahawks video ends up getting, I think, like 70 or 80K, and I've been making Seahawks videos ever since then. Now, the difference is, after that 2022 season, you had 2023, and then you had last season. And, you know, even last year, Seattle went 10-7, got off to a nice start. 2 years ago, I think you guys went like 9-8, got off to once again a nice start. But around the middle of the season, around right now, getting towards, you know, kind of the end, the final run, getting ready for the playoffs, where every game is very meaningful and it feels like playoff football. You know, I would sit here on the microphone and we would have to like talk about like right guards and, you know, tackle health and defense, and we'd have to like sit here and kind of like analyze the Seahawks team and be like, well, you know what, maybe they should start, you know, trying this as opposed to this. Maybe they're doing this a little bit less. Like, I know that was confusing, but the point is, I would sit here behind the microphone making Seahawks videos, trying to like logically work out how the Seahawks can, you know, have some success by the end of the season. It's so different now, and I know that Rams loss probably still has a bad stain in your mouth. Hopefully 2 or 3 weeks from now, whenever you guys play Los Angeles, hopefully that's over and you can get back to trying to win the NFC West, because this Seahawks team is special and Sam Darnold is just so special. And, you know, we saw the Mike McDonald defensive resurgence last season. I remember, you know, first half of the year, it felt like that whole Seahawks defense was injured, and you guys started to get healthy. You won a bunch of games in the row and ends up, you know, just barely falling short, but you really saw that defense. They were like a top 5 defense in the second half of the season. Well, this year they're picking up right where they left off, including that shutout against the Minnesota Vikings. They made the Vikings look like a team relying on an undrafted rookie quarterback. Exactly what they were doing. Max Brosmer completed 19 of 30 throws for just 126 yards. He was sacked 4 times. He threw 4 interceptions. In fact, Seattle nearly matched his passing total at 121, or his passing total of 126 in interception return yards. They had 121 interception return yards. So forced 5 turnovers, 4 of which came when Minnesota crossed midfield. Ernest Jones got to his 5th interception, tied for 2nd in the National Football League behind Kevin Byard, who has 6. Kobe Bryant's 3rd pick of the year. DeMarcus Lawrence is completely wrecking games. You guys are playing with, you know, a weakened secondary. You're playing without some critical players on all sides of the football, and it's really impressive. You're 3rd in scoring. You're 2nd in rush defense. Seattle's 2nd in rush defense. 4th in sacks at 40. They're 6th in takeaways per game at 1.5. the defense is clearly a championship caliber defense. So then you get to the offense, and it's like, okay, yeah, Darnold had a dud where he threw way too many interceptions against the Los Angeles Rams, but you still had an opportunity to win it with a 61-yarder, if I'm not mistaken, to Jason Myers, and you lost by 2 points in a game where your quarterback throws 4 interceptions. Like, that's as good of a loss as you're gonna get. I know it still sucks and it stings, especially against, divisional rival in the Rams on the road, but the Seahawks team, man, they're kind of getting back to flying under the radar. People know they're a top 10 team. Some people think they're a top 5 team, like myself, but it's cool to see, man. And, even the run game, what I've really been liking, they're still 18th in rushing yards per game, which isn't great, but it's trending upward, and that's going to be huge come playoff time. Seattle doesn't have the easiest, per se, final game stretch. You've got Atlanta, and then you've got the struggling Colts, but there's still, a lot of wins on that team. You got a Week 16 matchup Thursday night, short week against the Los Angeles Rams, and then on the road, final 2 games against Carolina, who's going to be hoping for a playoff spot, and San Francisco in this NFC West, man. Who really knows how it's going to end. So you're going to need this running game in the final 5 games of the season and in the playoffs. And Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet have had over 100 rushing yards combined in 4 straight games. So I'm liking it. Their joint success rate has also been above league average in 3 of those 4, and the one that didn't follow that exception was the Los Angeles Rams loss. So I'm loving it. Really the only 2 critiques, I guess 3 critiques you could have with this offense is, we talk about this in every video. First and foremost, turnovers. Whether it's Darnold, interceptions, fumbles. Seattle almost has 2 turnovers per game. They're second in that category. We just mentioned they're 18th in rushing, which isn't a great number, but like we said, it's trending uphill. And then finally, maybe Jackson Smith-Njigba reliance. I saw an interesting article from Michael Sean Dugar, who does a great job on The Athletic for covering Seattle, and he kind of put it all together because Jackson Smith-Njigba entered last week averaging 120 receiving yards per game. He was on pace to be the first 2,000-yard receiver in league history, but he had only 2 catches for 23 yards. That was his lowest output since week 4 against Arizona, where he had 79 yards. Sam Darnold had a season-low 28 passing yards. But I think when you watch that game, it was a 26-point shutout. There wasn't too much offensive pressure. And, at the end of the day, man, I don't know. They were putting 2 guys on JSN, so yeah. I would love to see more Rashid Shaheed. I would love when Torrey Horton comes back. I think that opens up another side element to this offense. You're seeing about 40 rushing or receiving yards from Cooper Kupp per game. It's going to be interesting. I would love for a guy like Rashid Shaheed or even Cooper Kupp to just go off here on Sunday against Atlanta. Get these guys ready. Get Shaheed's confidence up, ready. In 4 games, he only has 37 receiving yards. He's got more rushing attempts than receptions with just 5 rushing attempts. So I'd love to see more Shaheed, but JSN's doing crazy things, and I don't know. I didn't really think he was going to break the 2,000-yard metric because I know teams are trying to not have that happen, and you're going into these matchups saying, hey, have anybody but JSN beat us. So hopefully he still does break the record, but you guys have sites that are higher than just a receiving record. So thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. You guys know the deal. And let me know your thoughts on this 9-3 Seattle Seahawks team. And hopefully we see you on Sunday with a victory recap. Peace.